Hello, I'm Frank Epstein, founder and president of Collage New Music. It is my pleasure to introduce to you our latest online presentation entitled The Composer Speaks. The Composer Speaks is an opportunity to introduce composers directly to you. Our guest today is composer David Rakowski. David was born and brought up in St. Albans, Vermont. He played trombone in high school and played keyboard in a rock band called Silver Finger. He studied at the New England Conservatory with Robert Seeley and John Heiss. The latter, John Heiss, remembers David's considerable sense of humor, his wit, and one who is often provocative. David went on and received both his master's and his PhD from Princeton University. Noted for writing energetic, explosive, and quirky music, David has written music for the largest forces as well as intimate chamber music. His 100 piano etudes, followed by 100 preludes, assure him of having tons of performances worldwide. In addition, he has written 10 concertos and 7 symphonies. He's a recipient of numerous awards and prizes, including the membership into the Academy of Arts and Letters. He has taught at Stanford University, Columbus University, and since 1995 at Brandeis University. It is now my pleasure to introduce our music director, David Hoose, who will in turn introduce David Rakowski. We thank you all for joining us, and we hope this experience will bring you closer to new music and the composers that write it.
Hello, Davey. It's good to see you. I have to begin with a question. A few months ago, I was interviewing John Heiss, whom you know, and as people who have watched that interview know, he never takes his baseball cap off. It's a trademark of his, and we now find you with the C clef baseball cap on. Has this become a trademark of yours as well?
Just for teaching, it's, you know, when they can see every blemish and they're right up next to you. I mean, they can see this lack of hair at the top. So basically, a baseball cap is the cheapest wig in the world.
So you mean for Zoom teaching?
For Zoom teaching, yeah. When I am in the classroom, I don't wear a baseball cap.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Yeah.
So besides Zoom teaching, what's this year been like for you? I mean, it's devastating impact on the whole world and everyone we know, every way.
On our profession, definitely.
In the profession, I actually got my hair cut a few weeks ago, and the person who was cutting my hair said, "Well, my business is down 55%," and I thought, "Yeah, and mine's down 100."
Yeah.
So I wasn't complaining. I just it's pretty rough time. I'm wondering whether there's anything during this last year that has been better than life outside of COVID.
I don't think so. I mean, I haven't gotten a haircut since the lockdown, so it's things that have been better is maybe a little bit more composing time, strangely enough, because I don't have the drive to and from work anymore, so I have a little bit of extra time. And I can get more covered in the classes I teach because I'm not doing the walking around and writing on the blackboard and so forth. I'm simply presenting the materials and waiting for questions. But students are a little quiet too. They put themselves in mute, and I ask them if there are any questions, and I just see You know,
Are you confident that they are actually there?
I'm confident that they're there. But a thing about Zoom is, and when you're teaching orchestration, you're putting a lot of stuff on a shared screen. And when you share the screen, you only see 5 of the people who are in the meetings. So, and so I had a student email me to apologize for disappearing from class on Wednesday. And I said, you weren't even, I didn't see that. I couldn't see that because I was sharing the screen so much.
Right. So you say you have a little more time for composing. Some people say that they've gotten a lot done during this period. Other people say they're not able to concentrate very well.
I get both.
What's your situation?
I get both. I had a piano concerto that I started in 2018, and I had written the first 2 movements, and I just couldn't find the motive. I had to stop because I had other pieces to write, but I couldn't find the motivation to start it up again for a while. So I was writing a lot of piano pieces, and they came out just fine. But finally, in December, I looked at it and I decided, this I have to write what follows this, and it took about a month to finish that last movement, which is longer than it takes me to write movements usually. But because the school schedule was strange, I had the equivalent of a 7-week vacation in order to work, and I did that, and I got it copied, and I'm satisfied. But the other thing is, since our profession is pretty much in free fall right now, I don't have anyone asking me for pieces. So I'm just writing things I want to write for people I know. And, I do that anyway. But usually I've got something with a big premiere coming up that I have to really work hard to get it out in time. I was going to write a sequel to the Carnival of the Animals with the same orchestration and so forth, but that got canceled because of the COVID. And
tell us about this Carnival of the Animals piece that you're hoping to write or had been intending to write.
I hope I will be able to write it when things are back together. It was for Musica Viva, and it was for the original orchestration plus a narrator and even children's chorus if I wanted it. And
which of course is not in the Saint-Saëns.
Yes, I know, exactly. But it's the way we hear it nowadays anyway. I got in touch with my friend Rick Moody, the writer, and I said, he's got kids, so he knows about the Carnival of the Animals, and so he said, let's do something really cool and really weird, like make half of the animals that you write about on the brink of extinction, and let's. And I said, who's going to listen to a piece with about an animal whose name you've never heard, But the thing he said that was brilliant in email was, let's start with the March of the Pigs. And immediately I had like 2.5 minutes of music in my head for that. And so that would be cool if I could ever do that. So, I'll do it whenever someone wants me to, because I already got ideas lying around, and Rick has these brilliant ideas, but I'm not going to do the verge of extinction thing.
But oddly enough, not even oddly, I guess that writing your Carnival of the Animals Redux piece sounds like more fun than writing the third movement of your piano concerto.
Yes, it would have been way more fun than finishing the third movement of my piano concerto. And the performance would have been in about 2 weeks from now. So there we go.
Yeah. Have you had lots of other performances canceled?
Yes, just about everything. I'm lucky that I have a huge number of solo piano pieces, 100 etudes and 100 preludes, and they get performed in colleges all the time. I don't get any notifications of it, but I know they're out there because they're still selling, and a lot of people play them. Instrumental pieces, ensemble pieces, nothing whatsoever.
We know anybody who's read anything about you or knows your music knows something about your 100 piano etudes. But maybe we don't know that much about your preludes. Tell us about those.
Well, okay, I finished the Etudes in June 2010, and I just said, okay, I'm giving up on solo piano music. I don't need to write anymore. And a few months later, I heard it's a Bach C minor prelude. I'm sorry, I don't have a keyboard here, so I can't play it for you. And I thought, if you expand the intervals a little bit, you're going to get this really cool, funky sound. And so I went to the piano and played with it, and I ended up writing a piece, something like an etude, but it wasn't about anything. It was simply a prelude. The etudes were about hand crossing or intervals, and they were actually part of the title. They came right underneath the title. Etude on intervals, etude on major six, etc.
Or an etude on the nose.
And that's etude for nose, etc.
You might describe that one before we go on.
Okay, I will. I can even tell you where there's a video of it. People, yeah. Anyway, so I thought, I don't want to have 101 etudes, and besides, this is not an etude. I'll just call it a prelude. And then that fall, I was at Yaddo, Artist Colony, writing a saxophone quartet of all things. But when that was done really quickly. I thought maybe I can go back and try some more of these preludes. The restrictions to the etudes were that they had to be done in 6 days and they couldn't be revised. And I took those things away. All of the preludes were written in less than 6 days anyway, but I was making revisions to them, and so that's nice. That's a sort of a new thing with those things. It was just I had other notions I wanted to try, and it turned out it only took me 10 years this time to write 100, whereas it took me 22 to write the first 100 etudes. So I finished that up, and one of the reasons they finished so fast was COVID, right? Because I was not motivated to write this concerto, but I was motivated to try other new cool things for piano, because I know so many good pianists who are hungry for new pieces. And right now, what happens with new pieces is they record them and put them on SoundCloud. That's not really a public performance, but I give them credit for the premiere.
Yeah. So, is there anybody who's played all 100 etudes or all 100 preludes?
No, 71 of the preludes have not been performed yet.
Oh.
I was just, they're totally on spec. It's just like, okay, I wasn't writing them for people so much, but Amy Briggs recorded 92 of the etudes, so she's...
Would she give up from the last 8?
Well, there wasn't more space on the CD, and what do you do with you can't sell a CD with 8 etudes, so...
Right. With your 100 etudes, Davy, you set a 6-day restriction on how long you were going to spend on them, and you committed not to revising them.
Right.
Did you ever break those rules?
I broke the revising rule once, because in number 43, Amy said, "This is awkward. Can you change this F sharp to a G?" And I said, "Sure. It's close enough to the harmony." So that was a revision, but it was prompted by the performer. And the reason for the 6 days was the first one. I had gone out to Arizona in February and March to write a Pierrot ensemble piece. I'd never been in a warm climate at that time of year, so that's why I went there. And I finished the piece with 6 days left before my plane reservation. And so I said, what can I do now? And there was this repeated note figure that was in the piano at the end of that etude, that of the Pierrot piece, and I turned it into basically the first repeated note etude E machines, and I called it E machines, and I thought it was kind of a joke piece. I didn't think it had any worth whatsoever, but it's been performed more than 500 times now and recorded 3 times. So it's got a joke in it. I could do something funny. It quotes Fur-Elise just when you don't expect it. Yeah. So after I was still young, but after so many performances where people would come up to me and say, you're kind of a funny guy. Why is your music so serious? And after the premiere of this piece, someone came up and said, I've never heard a piece that came closer to the personality of the composer than this one. So there you go. But I didn't know it was an etude. Karen Harvey, a Boston area player, wanted to play it in a recital at the Wang Center, but it's short. It's only 2.5 minutes, and she said, "I need a companion piece to this because I can't play at the Wang Center and have them say, why is she playing so many short pieces?" Mm-hmm. So 3 years later, then I wrote another one that had a lot of the same harmonies in it, so forth. I called it Bam, just because Karen had played a piece of mine once, and at one point she just wrote Bam in the music as a reminder to herself. And she played these two things together, and I had 2 piano pieces, and they were actually published by Peters. They were Peters editions of them, and so forth. And then when I got to California, it was later. My friend that I met when I was in California, I taught at Stanford for a year, said, why don't you write a slow etude on repeated notes? And, I can play all 3 as a set. And, okay, I might have a set here. What was I going to call it? And her name is Lynn Reyna. And she said, these are etudes. What you've written are 3 etudes. And, I'm going to call them that, 3 etudes by Rakowski. So, okay, I started taking it seriously as etudes. And I went back to the scores and said, Etude number 1 on repeated notes, Etude number 2 on, quote, swirls of notes, Etude number 3 on slow repeated notes, etc. And then I started taking it seriously as the genre of an etude. But, the first 3 took me 3 years to write just because I wasn't trying to write piano music. And then based on these 3 pieces, some pianists started asking for pieces, and I said, I can write you an etude, but I can't write you something multi-movement or anything like that. And they said, that's fine. So I started writing them faster, a little bit faster. By 2001, remember I started in 1988. Is this right? Yeah, by 2001, 13 years, I'd written 30. And they all did various nice things. And it turned out that Amy Briggs was hired to play some etudes that I was to choose for a concert of the Chicago Symphony's Music Now series in 2001. And Amy is originally from New Hampshire, so we have similar accents. And she said, "Who's recorded these? These are great, and they fit in the hands." And I said, "Well, Marilyn Donkin recorded 5, and someone else recorded 3." And she said, "They're not recorded? What's wrong? What can be more wrong than that? I'm going to record them all. And would you write some more for me too?" So then I started going pretty fast. Yeah. In the next 9 years, I wrote the other 70.
So along around number 84.
Yeah.
It seems inevitable that you're going to get to 100 at some point. That's the next logical demarcation. And I can also imagine that there comes some point when you say, oh my God, what is this next etude going to focus on? What technical or musical idea is this etude going to center itself upon? And is that how the etude for nose came about? or was that completely?
The Etude for Nose came about because of the Mozart A major piano sonata K331, the one that goes da 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 da.
A major, yeah.
Yes, yeah. And when I teach pedal point in Theory 1, you start with all the bass pedal points, and then you talk about the Hill Street Blues theme had a pedal point at the very top.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's a repeated E in the middle of that. And when I taught that piece, here's a pedal point in a middle voice. In fact, this middle voice is so easy, I can play it with my nose. And I would go to the piano, and it's very easy. Just keep playing E. Da, da, da. You have to take it up at the first cadence, but then it keeps going and so forth. And I'm so glad that I stopped doing that after it became common for students to have cell phones with cameras.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But now, of course, the Mozart, the two hands are rather close together.
Yes, they are very close together.
So I can imagine
I was looking just like this.
You're playing a little bit like this.
Yeah.
But I think your Etude for Nose has the hands quite spread.
Yes, and that was something else. That was obviously a nod to that way that I taught pedal point. But I figured if this is going to be something that involves the nose, it better be there, because otherwise the sonorities are impossible to play regularly. Right. So there's one at one end and one at the other end and right in the middle. And I remember doing a field trip. When I had the idea for that, I was with my wife in Maine. She teaches at the University of Maine, so we have a house there. And I had to try it with all the pianos they had at the University of Maine. Can I play both white and black keys with my nose? And the first three pianos I could, and I thought, this is going to be great. I write chromatic music. I can do something chromatic. Mm-hmm. But then I came upon one that had a curved cover, and I couldn't get my forehead past it to the black keys. So that's why the nose part is all just white keys. And sometimes it's two keys at a time. So that's kind of cool too. Now, when Amy got to the point of recording it, actually, I have to tell you that Jeff Burleson premiered it at a concert at Brandeis, and I had not been able to go to a dress rehearsal to hear him because I was teaching so much that day. So there I was at the concert, and I knew that the nose was going to be happening, and the way he presented it was great. He wore glasses to play, and he played two etudes, and then for the third one, he sat up straight, took his glasses off and put them on the side, and then he just very subtly just leaned over, and I almost lost it. I was laughing really, really hard inside because it never occurred to me that it looked funny.
I would suspect that everybody else lost it as well.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that I was going during the whole performance, and one of my students in back of me, after that was over, said, "I'm glad you thought it was funny too."
You have to clean the keyboard when you're done, or
yeah,
exactly. The middle of the keyboard.
Exactly. Well, the funny thing was that when Amy recorded it, something similar happened. You're in a control booth and you can't see what's going on. But Judy Sherman said, "Okay, this is take one." And then we heard, "This piano smells funny."
But I'm interested in talking a little bit about your beginnings as a musician, in part because I was hoping you would talk to us about a man who just recently passed away, Vern Colburn.
Oh.
Who was your band director, and according to what I've read that you've written, was quite important in opening the world of music to you.
Boy, did he spend a lot of his time just helping us students. He never quit. And, he also had to take an external job selling real estate in order to make ends meet. So he was very busy. But, he fixed my trombone embouchure in the first week of high school because I was not tonguing correctly. He told me how to tongue. He had to learn really difficult piano parts whenever there were auditions for the All New England and All State festivals. He drove us to those festivals in his big gas guzzler car in order to take as many people as he can. And he even eventually got a license to drive a bus. So to be doing all of that in addition to all the musical stuff, fixing my embouchure and trying to help me with theory, he was surprised that he gave me his college theory textbook, and I already knew all that stuff. And so I just gave it back and said, this is nice, but I want to do something different. And so he had those Time Life records of classical music in his office. And the 20th Century, he lent me that one, and that opened a lot of ears too, because the weirdest stuff I'd heard had been band music at these festivals.
Yes.
Hindemith and Persichetti, much weirder than the stuff that you would play for, say, a summer outdoor concert with people with folding chairs.
Yep.
Yeah, and so that opened my ears. It was Boulez and Babbitt that on that collection that really opened my ears and made me want to look into this stuff. And I was a composition major at NEC, and it was Gunther's last year as the director of NEC, and I got to hear Wozzeck and Gerlieder and the ISCM World Music Days, which were a real trip.
Right.
So there was so much new stuff going in that, it took years and years to process it.
Did you stay in touch with him since you were
Yes.
in school in Vermont?
Well, yeah. Yes, I would. Well, for the first 4 years after I graduated from high school, whenever I was in town, I would go to dinner at his house. And sometimes I would make the dinner, make pizza or something like that. And there's even more serendipitous connections here, is that his son, who is, well, he had a lot of sons and daughters. His son, Michael, who is 5 years younger than me, at one of these dinners, I said, Michael, are you interested in seeing Boston? You can visit me, during your April break. And he said, okay, that'll be fine. He was
He was a high school kid.
He was in high school, yeah. He was a high school kid, 5 years younger, so he would have been maybe a sophomore or a junior in high school. And he thought it was great, and he loved me, like, buying his meals and showing him around. And that was about the last time I saw him for a while. And what year would that be? That year would be 1980. So many years later, 1997, 1998, I made my first CD, and it was out on CRI and so forth. And within a month, I got this package from Washington, D.C., United States Marine Band, and with a Colburn in the corner. It turned out, in the intervening time, he had gone to Crane School of Music, majored in euphonium, one of the places where you can do that. And then he got a job with the United States Marine Band, the really good one, the one that's in Washington. And he was promoted to assistant director by this time. And he caught my CD and he said, the director and I really, really love this music. We think you should write something for band. And we don't usually pay commissions for pieces, but we are going to pay a commission for this. So why don't you just come to, we're playing one of the pieces that's on your CD in our concert at the Library of Congress in a few months. Why don't you come to that and hear how we play and see what you think? So I did. That was nice. Had to go through a metal detector, but that's normal. they were very, very good players. You know, the flutists especially, they have the hard part because it's basically a double flute concerto. So I said, okay, I'll do it. And he sent me a whole bunch of band CDs. The first package had some band CDs, and the second one had more band CDs of people that are not the Marine Band. So I kind of got used to what the band sound was. After all, that's how I grew up, playing trombone in bands and community bands and so forth. And I hadn't really thought about band music for such a long time. It was mostly complicated chamber music, a la Nocturnal and those uptown people in New York.
Don Martino.
Yeah, Don Martino, exactly. And then, so I listened to these things and I figured, there's a lot of trickery going on here orchestrationally, and I don't really know if I want to use any of that. I'm going to have to play it by ear a lot, and just write for these things as instruments rather than a band. And Michael said, well, yeah, we don't want you to write us a band piece. We have plenty of band pieces. Write your music that happens to be for band. And he sent me a list, based on the difficulty of my music, of how many there were on each instrument in the band, who could handle the counting and the techniques in my music. And what struck me was, it said 13 clarinets. And I thought, oh, goodness, what if I just make it a concerto where 10 of those clarinets of different sizes are the soloist? And that was the cool thing. And it doesn't sound like a band piece. Problem is that then other people wanted band pieces. And I said, I don't think I can write a band piece. And it's not going to sound like a band piece.
So you played the trombone, but you also, I read that you played in a rock band. What instrument did you play?
I was the keyboard player. They had a Fender Rhodes that they went around. They wanted me as a trombonist, as the keyboard player, mostly because I was able to take pop tunes off the radio and give them all a kind of a lead sheet. We had a brass section, so everyone was into Chicago, and so I could take that stuff off and give everyone a part. Because why don't you just play the piano part then? Because all it is basically a lead sheet, except a few solos that you had to know about and so forth. But I was good at Johnny B. Good, and
what are your piano chops like, or can you play your etudes?
I cannot play my etudes.
Maybe the slow repeated note one.
I made a point. The etudes are published in volumes of 10, and each volume of 10 has one that is easy enough for me to play. And Peter
you played the
brought
trombone.
Those easy ones out as Rakowski, the easy etudes. And they're all fairly short. They seem fairly short just because
what
they're slow,
did you play?
and they only take 3 pages instead of 8. So. There's one in each book that I can play, and there's one in each book of Preludes that I can play as well. So I don't have the greatest chops because I never had the discipline to practice. Plus, the stuff I would have practiced would have driven my parents crazy, because the piano was in the living room, which is where my father read the newspaper, and my mother smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day and stuff like that. So,
well, your mother was a musician, your father was not. Is that correct?
My father was completely tone deaf. Standing next to him in church when the hymns were being sung was not a good idea. Because
but he sang, he made some noise.
He made
with
some
enthusiasm.
noise. He made some noise with enthusiasm, and he went up and down at the right places. My mother had been a music major at Boston University in the early 40s, and they met at a mixer at NEC of all things, because Northeastern was using Jordan Hall as a meeting place. In any case, so she was an actual musician, which is why we had a violin in the house, which I never touched, and we had a piano in the house, which, good thing I don't have perfect pitch, because when we finally had it tuned, the tuner said, your piano is a half step low.
You would probably have learned it all incorrectly had you.
Yes,
had
exactly.
pitch, and you'd be transposing for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I know. I learned how to play along with Linus and Lucy on the Charlie Brown specials, da 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 da. But of course, on our piano, it was an A, which is not very grateful for the hands. It's really easy in A flat, which Vince Guaraldi played it on. So I had that, and in any case, we had the piano in the house, and my sister played it a little bit. Both of my older siblings, I have two older siblings, my sister and brother, were given piano lessons, which they hated, but they still had their piano books. And my parents decided that I was probably not going to like having piano lessons either, because I was doing so many things independently. So I taught myself based on those books. And I don't remember not being able to read music. One of my first memories is 4 years old, playing something four hands with my sister. She was playing the bass and I was playing the top part. And I was reading music. So I don't remember not being able to read music. And the piano was a good thing for when I started to get interested in composition. Because, yeah.
So your mother never said, let me give you some introductory lessons to the piano or anything?
No, she bribed me. She also had her old typing textbooks from college, and they thought at a certain point that I should learn how to type. And my mother said, okay, here's my typing manual, and you have to do all the typing exercises that are in it, but I'll give you 10 cents for every lesson you finish. And, after the first day, she owed me $1.90. So that's how quickly I learned that. But then also, she said, if you learn these pieces that are in these piano methods and memorize them and play them for me, I'll give you 10 cents for each one of those. So bribing works.
So had the price been higher, perhaps you'd be playing the Rachmaninoff Third Concerto or the Elliott Carter Concerto.
Perhaps. But, again, I mostly sight read them and then kind of remembered them, and then I could play them back and then totally forget them. So, but it was piano that I was pretty proficient on, and I knew how to read music. And fifth grade, it's time for you to choose a band instrument, and my father chose the French horn, and they said, nope, fifth graders can't play the French horn, it's too hard. How about saxophone? Nope, fifth graders can't play the saxophone, it's too hard. Okay, well, you'll have to settle for trombone. Okay, then that's where it went.
A couple of times you've made reference to Beth, your wife, Beth Weeman, wonderful composer in her own right. And I'm wondering how the two of you work side by side. That is, if you're both saying, I need the piano from 11 to 12:30, or do you both write at the piano?
No, she doesn't write at the piano. She hears things and then she puts them into a computer program usually, and then listens with headphones and so forth. Mm-hmm. We have our piano is in the dining room, which is where Beth likes to sort of hang out and read the news online and so forth. And we had this problem for a long time. We got a clavinova to put in our bedroom, so that Beth would have a separate workspace there, but it was too close to the piano in the dining room. So a lot of the time we just had to close doors and so forth and so on, until finally we took the big step 3 years ago, 2018. We cleared out the attic and turned it in and had it built into her studio for only $62,100.
Oh, excellent.
And that's yes, and now it's her studio.
And well worth it, I assume.
Yes, and it's got HVAC that works, and it's got good lighting, and it's got a good acoustic, and she practices there, and she does her composing there. The clavinova is there, after all. And it is such a nice space that when she's in Maine, I use her studio for my Zoom teaching. because it's got the piano right there.
What impact do you have on each other's music
Just a little bit.
that you can perceive?
Hardly any. We play things for each other, and well, we've gotten into the habit of not saying much about it. I mean, every once in a while, I'll mention something silly like what are these called? Chatterstones. They're these magnets that you toss in the air, and they go, and then you catch them. And she liked that sound, and so she incorporated it into one of her multimedia pieces. And then she asked me. She made movies of me doing that in various places as a foil to the sound. So there is that. I know her playing pretty well because I've been hearing it coming from the practice room for 32 years now. And when I wrote her a clarinet concerto,
She's a wonderful clarinetist.
yes, she is a wonderful clarinetist. But I also knew that when the premiere happened was, I know from being in bed with her every night, what time of year she starts to have breathing issues. It's just like a normal thing. And I wanted to write long phrases, and I thought, if this is going to be at this time at this year, I don't think the soloist should have so many really long phrases, but I can create long phrases by having two more clarinets with her as a sort of super clarinet. And that's how I got the idea for Cerberus, which after all is a three-headed dog. So her playing definitely, I had that piece has a lot of legato playing, and after the premiere, Beth just said, "You realize that we can play staccato also, right?"
Well, but it is the clarinet.
Yeah, but I love the creamy sound, but
I don't think there's a staccato note in the Brahms clarinet quintet or the Mozart clarinet quintet.
Well, that's what I was thinking about, I'm sure. The best comment about clarinet ever was to make this structural. John Heiss, when I took his 20th century music class in 1976, we were listening to Agon by Stravinsky, and the first movement, after you get to after the brass fanfare is over, you just hear the clarinet go do 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 do, and John just said, "This is extremely goofy," and that's what makes it great clarinet writing. So
maybe that was spoken by a true flutist.
yes, by a true flutist, exactly.
Thank you so much for this time and for your openness to this conversation. We'll hope that we get to hear your music live, or in the case of the piano etudes, maybe on YouTube, because there are plenty of them there.
Yeah, the tons. And thanks for doing all the homework. I mean, all these obscure things that I wrote that I don't remember writing.
Oh, you remember them very well.
Okay. They're on my blog. So
yes, they are. They are. Thank you so much, David.
Thank you.
In recent years, the very fresh music of David Rakowski has become an increasingly important part of Collage New Music's programming. One of our most recent performances was of his Stolen Moments for wind quintet, string quartet, and piano. The first and fourth movements of this piece are lively and vigorous. In between are two very special sections, a flexible and elegant slow movement, and then a sultry slow motion tango. We are pleased to offer these two middle movements here.